There you go. We're recording. All right, guys. As I say, Deb's going to is just going to talk about how she was able to claim back all of her um, tax that had been paid for the year, as well as her husband and her kids, I believe. Is that correct, Deb?
No, my husband and my son, yes.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh,
but
one of the kids.
yeah, there's a whole journey
Mhm.
around my tax. So it's been a massive learning curve. Um, but I don't know what you've told everyone. Is that all you've told them?
That's it.
And
That you were
um,
able to
okay,
claim all your tax back. So I'll just let you tell the story.
okay. Um, Also, Warren, I think if you recall when we were speaking the other day, I was speaking about some advice that I had been given previously, that was incorrect. Um, Given that you are recording this, yeah, I appreciate your assurance that it won't go out to the
Well,
public.
just to hide your face.
Um,
Turn your camera off if you like.
well, my name's still going to be there. Anyway,
Okay.
let's. I'm trying to be sensitive to the person. I don't blame people for what they don't know.
Mm.
Um, and I should have played my gut, but that person was charging $500 to help me, and I paid it in good faith. And then it turned out it cost us a lot of money.
Did the name start
And
with N?
sorry,
Did the name start with N?
yes, it did.
Okay. Know exactly who you mean.
Okay, so a year ago, we were put in touch with that person, and my I had not paid tax. The last tax return that I had lodged was 2017. So I've been on this, I don't think I should have to pay tax journey for a long time. But most of the family were up to date almost. Some of them owed a couple of years. And we were informed that this person could help us. Um, and we could lodge a tax return that would basically say we are living men and women. We therefore do not need to pay tax. And this is our final tax return. And we all lodged that. So there were five of us who lodged that. And we were we were being charged $500 per person. I negotiated that and ended up paying half, but still, that was $1,250. When we received the documentation that for us to sign, um, we had actually gone to where this person was staying, and I questioned them because he had filled out for me, the person who had not lodged a tax return since 2017. So the next one that I owed was 2018, but he was filling out 2024 and expecting that I would send that in and everything would be fine. And I questioned that, and I said, should I not lodge the 2018 one and say this is my last tax return, and then that will write off everything that came after that? Because what the tax department did, they said, well, she earned $145,000 in 2017. Therefore, even though she didn't put in a tax return each of those years, she likely earned something similar. Therefore, she likely owes us that much money in tax. And they were just adding it up and every year and adding interest on top of that. So by the point when I was sitting with this person, the ATO said that I owed them just over $250,000. It was 260,000. So then I said to him, should I not put in 2018 and then that would write off everything after that? And he said, oh no, it'll be fine. Um, this will fix it all up. Well, it didn't. They did accept it for 2024, and they have not added to my list of overdue tax returns. the 2025 year. So they have accepted that my 2024 year was my final tax return, but that did nothing to wipe out all of the other years. It also did nothing to wipe out my debt. So I rang this person and I said, you were wrong. I'm just ringing you to catch you up on what's transpired. But do you remember I asked you about this and we sort of discussed 2018 versus 2024? And you said yes. And I said, well, unfortunately, you were wrong. And he laughed and said, oh, yes, I thought I might be. And I said, well, why didn't you say that? Why didn't you tell me that you weren't sure? Because if you weren't sure, I would have played my gut. But because you presented it as being categorical, very confident, no, this is fine, and we're paying him for his expertise, I deferred to him. And that was my mistake. So we have not dealt with him since then. But that meant that I went on a journey to find out, okay, what can I do for remedy about that? And we came across this, and what the version, and I'm happy to show you the two versions of the tax returns, but in essence, where the income section is, where you declare your income with your boss's ABN and everything, he had stuck like a half of an A4 sheet of paper with all this typing on it and a special notice. And it was basically a declaration. He since updated it and put in our RPP numbers and things like that. And he is currently still charging people $500 to help them put these tax returns in. The problem is what he does is he puts this piece of paper over the entire area where it says income. And then on the next page, it just asks for the total income or loss, right? And for us all, he declared $3,666. So in essence, he was saying that's all they earned in that year. So therefore, they don't pay tax because it's under the 18,200. And at the time, because this was new to us, new to me, I didn't pick up that the actual income that we were earning, or I wasn't earning anything, but my husband was, wasn't being declared at all, and neither was the tax that he had already paid through his boss. And so when he got his tax return assessment for that year, 2024, they said, sure. So he paid $36,000 in tax in that year. But this person declared that all he'd earned was $3,666 and not paid any tax. And the ATO went, sure, if that's what you want to say, then go for it. And they approved that. And so, again, they accepted that that was my husband's final tax return. So they were not expecting him to put in a 2025 one. However, in the meantime, I was doing a lot of searching and I discovered a far preferred way of dealing with the ATO. And that is to actually lodge a tax return that does declare every accurate cent that we earned, every accurate cent of what we paid in tax. And my husband and my son were in the 2025 tax year were both still working for a boss. They were hoping their boss would allow them to stop paying tax via the boss because there is a form that you can use that. It's called withholding declaration. You fill that out, you give it to your boss. It says on it that you can adapt, you can change it, you can modify it in any way you see fit to fit your circumstances. Then you give it to the boss. The boss then fills out his section. You both sign it. He files it in his file somewhere. It says on it at the back, do not, and this is to the boss, do not give this to your accountant. Do not send this to the ATO. File it. And in the event that you are audited, you will provide this to justify why you have not paid tax for that person, or you have modified their tax or altered it in some way. And basically what that would mean is the employer would get audited. They would look at their books and say, why aren't you paying tax for Deborah Croft? And then the boss would pull out that form, give it to the ATO, and it would say, she is responsible for her own tax. She has declared that. She has asked me not to take out tax, and therefore I have done what she's asked. That absolves them of the responsibility to do that, and it puts the onus on us. And of course, Deborah Croft doesn't pay tax, right? Because I'm a living woman. So that's the premise. That's what we were hoping for when we put in our 2024 tax return. However, neither of their bosses would stop taking out tax. So even though it was an actual ATO form, they didn't, one of them just didn't want to do it at all. The other one took the form to his accountant. And of course, the accountant who works for the ATO and is invested in this guy, constantly bringing his tax stuff to her, she said, oh, no, you can't do this. This will trigger an audit if we send this to the ATO. So they totally didn't listen. Anyway, so both of them had paid tax in that year, in the 2025 year. So we discovered a better way of doing it is to declare what you earn in your gross income, declare what you paid in tax, because they already know that, right? Your boss, your employer or employers have put in your group certificate. But then in the list of expenses on the second page, there's a line item called other work-related expenses. And we basically, let's say if you earned, your gross amount was 100,000, round figures. And let's say your boss paid 30,000 in tax on your behalf. Well, we would declare in that other work-related expenses line item almost the whole of the rest of the $70,000 that you took home net. And that's all you fill out, basically. We do fill out the, because you're bringing your taxable income under the 18,200, so you bring it down to whatever you feel. Because of that, we fill out the Medicare levy section, which means that because we've earned under the tax-free threshold, we are Medicare levy free for 365 days. So we do fill out that section and then we sign it. All of the other sections we leave blank because we also, and I'll explain this in a minute, we also lodge an affidavit with them that justifies why we do not pay tax. And therefore, this information that we give them is all they need to know. They do not need to know about our spouses, about our investments, about our super. They don't need to know any of that. All they need to know is that we don't need to pay tax because we are living men and women. And therefore, this is all the information you need to know. You need to know that, yes, we earned this money, we've paid this tax, but we want it back. And with the affidavit, it is called an affidavit of expenses. There are 12 clauses in it. Warren, did I send it to you? I did, didn't I? No? I'm sorry. I was sure okay. I send it to so many people all the time. I've obviously missed you. I'm sorry. I will do that. So the affidavit says that I, Deborah Croft, am a living woman. I was endowed with certain rights by the Creator. We are Christians, but people who are using this who are not Christians are leaving it word for word anyway because they know it works. But you can tailor the wording if you like. It's entirely up to you. But it points out that we are not corporations and the government can only engage with corporations, and therefore, as we are declaring ourselves to be living men and women, we are tax exempt. And so it talks about the only reason we use engage with the strawman name is because we are forced to, so that's under duress. That life is pretty difficult if you don't have a tax file number and provide that to your employer, so we do that under duress. But regardless of these things, we are living men and women, and therefore we are tax exempt. We even put in a scripture there because the Bible says that we're tax exempt. And so we don't have to have it notarized because technically we don't have to do that even by the government's own rules. But we felt, because this was the first time we were doing this, we felt, well, okay, if we get it notarized by a public notary who we happen to know, it will be more impressive to them perhaps than us getting two of our friends, because you can have two living witnesses in good standing sign it as well. So we did pay $50 to have it notarized, which makes it all look very nice and official. And we keep with the affidavit of expenses, we keep the original and we photocopy it and send them a file copy stamped with file copy, because we will use that every time we put in a tax return from now on. So it'll be the same one every time. Simon's we're about to put in his fourth one, because the one that person helped us with in 2024, Simon should have got back that $36,000 in tax, right? So not only did we pay him a lot of money to do this for us, he cost us $36,000. So I'm going back and we're amending that, which we're allowed to do, but you can only go back 2 years. So if you haven't amended prior to, in that time period, unfortunately, you're screwed with that. But Simon hadn't lodged his 2002 and 2003 year. So we're able to lodge those in this way as well. And so we've now been helping a lot of people do the same thing. I'm happy to send you both a copy of the redacted tax return that I just grabbed one of the ones that we've all used, Tipp-X'd out, whoever's it was, personal details. I'm happy to also give you a template of the affidavit of expenses. You can tailor that as you wish. And then I've also just drawn up an A4 document, a Word document about some notes explaining why this works, and then a note about the actual return, some things to do, some things to avoid, and a few notes about the affidavit and where to send it. But it's very simple. And there was recently a newspaper article that we had told someone about this, and they went away and started doing their own research, which we expect everyone to do. And he came back with a newspaper article from WA. And the newspaper article was about a guy who got prosecuted by the ATO because he put in this fraudulent tax return whereby he reduced through bogus expenses, a number that brought his taxable income down under the 18,200. And this guy was fined $63,000. And so he sent us this, this article and said, there you go, basically what you guys are doing is wrong. When I read the article, I realized the guy's mistake. What we do in the affidavit, we say, here's what we have earned. We're showing you every cent we've earned. We are showing you every cent we've paid in tax. And the line item that is labeled other work-related expenses consists of, this is in the affidavit, this number consists of my mortgage, my accommodation, my food, my clothes, my travel expenses, my car, my insurance, etc., which are living expenses that if I did not pay those, I would not be able to survive, and therefore I would not be able to go to work as an individual living man or woman. So we are not saying to the government, oh, I bought a car and a fancy printer and some of these other bogus claims, and therefore I reduce my taxable income. We're saying, no, we earn, this is how much we earn, this is how much we paid, and the rest of it is my money because I'm not a corporation. So we're actually being totally transparent. We say in the affidavit we are being transparent in order to not deceive, to be honourable, and it is up to them to decide what they do about that. And therefore, even though this guy got fined $63,000, when they audited him, he could not produce the receipts for the things that he said he had paid for. And so that was fraudulent. Whereas for us, we could easily prove our living expenses for the entire year. That would likely exceed that because, we have other income. So that's the difference with that. It's also the way this other person that we paid to do the 2024 one is dishonest because we're not declaring what we earned. Most people may not care about being dishonest with the ATO, but it sits better with me because if they ever do push back at us for whatever reason, we can say, no, we actually told you what all of that other work-related expenses consisted of. If you wanted more information, you could have asked for it then. And what happened on the website, because you do this in hard copy, you can't do this online. You have to print off the tax return from the website, and then you fill it out in hard copy. You print off your affidavit of expenses. You put them both in a registered envelope and you send it. When you do that, the ATO's website says that a hard copy is processed to expect it can be processed within 50 business days, which is 10 weeks. So after 10 weeks, both my son and my husband, they posted theirs on the same day at the same time. They started looking every day to see if it was being processed, and it was not until the 13th week. And then Simon looked at his one morning on the Thursday morning, and it was still overdue. This was the 2025 one, and this was only about a month ago. It was still overdue. Then James looked at his account, his MyGov account that afternoon, the same afternoon, and he came running in saying, hey, Ma, they are processing my tax return. So it's gone from overdue to processing. So then straight away, Simon rechecked his MyGov account, and his was also said processing. So in the morning, it was still overdue, but at some point in the afternoon, they began to process both returns. They checked about 10 o'clock Friday morning, and the assessment was done and completed, and they paid every cent. So there was no pushback. We told them the absolute truth, and they did not ask for any extra information. I was expecting they might want to see evidence of mortgage payments and car expenses and things like that. They didn't ask for that. And I expect they didn't ask for that because what we were doing was lawful. And they didn't even take the time to chase it up the chain and ask the supervisor, or like, we expected something, but no, they just paid it, and they both got the money a few days later. I yield.
Lauren's got a hand up. She obviously has a question for you, Deb.
Hey, Lauren.
G'day, mate. Probably 1,000 questions, but I'll limit it. You just talked there about being able to justify those expenses. Have you actually been called to justify anything at this point in time?
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
But we can. We can.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. We can all prove, all of us can prove that we spend most of our own money.
1,000%, yeah.
And we can prove on what we spend it on, basically, especially if you're like us. I suck. Simon pays for a lot of his stuff with cash, but I don't. And
I'm
so
hit and miss. Yeah.
I can prove, yeah. So, and that's the great thing, because even if they do push back and try to come at us and audit, there's no point, because we've told the absolute truth and they've paid out on that. So
Yeah.
it's on them.
Yeah, I really appreciate that kind of like the whole approach. I appreciate, because it's like it's a, I mean, we know they're dishonorable, but you're playing honor in their system. Like you're saying, I'm going to be honorable in your system.
Yes.
And clearly it's working for you, and you've helped a lot of people. Do you know anyone who's had any pushback on this? Like, have people tried
No.
it and not worked? Okay, cool.
There are others who have been paid every cent.
Yeah.
I have not seen or heard of anyone yet who have had any pushback or been rejected.
Fantastic. Watch out, ATO. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I love
You're
what
welcome.
you've done. Yeah. I'd love to get the affidavit, obviously. Like, yeah.
Sure, I'll pass it on to Warren and then share it at will.
Yep. Brilliant. I yield.
I can't find the hands up button, but I've done the exact same process. I helped my son-in-law follow the exact same process, and he's just a normal PAYG taxpayer, and he got the whole lot back too, an identical process. Yep.
Yeah, we've been, I don't know how, because I share it with people and then they're sharing it with people, and it's like, I expect the ATO are not going to know what hits them soon. Especially when people find out that they can actually lodge an amendment and get back what they didn't get back the last 2 years. So
we've actually tried to do the amendment, like we did the current year, and then we've gone back 2 years because you've only got the 2 years, and we've put that one in for him as well. And that was probably 10 weeks ago, and they haven't processed that one yet.
No.
So I'm not sure what's happening there, but my daughter says she's going to go ahead and do the middle one like the next year as well, even before they've processed it. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but
I don't see the problem, because the justification for the amendment is exactly the same as the justification for the return itself. And as they are not knocking any of them back, there's no pushback, no further information required. There's no reason why they would knock back an amendment. So yes, some of us have put in amendments. My journey, I'm dealing with that slightly differently, because I'm not declaring any of the income that I earned since 2018. But I'm actually doing it differently, because with those, I can't amend them. They're far too back. I mean, they're too far back, so I can't amend them. I have to approach it differently with the ATO, but I'm still doing it honestly with an affidavit for each year. So yeah.
Yeah, interestingly enough too, when Kerry did her, like I helped her, did her husband's, the first thing she noticed was, because she's got children and was receiving the family tax benefit B, she actually suddenly got a large portion of money back into her account adjusted for the family tax benefit as well, because her husband's income suddenly said he hadn't, nothing to declare. So that was, it helped them a lot, because they were, like a lot of people, living on Struggle Street, pay to pay.
Absolutely. But they're entitled to that money because it's hers, or it's his money. So regardless of whether we're on Struggle Street or not, it's our money.
Cameron, you had your hand up next. No, don't worry about it. We'll go straight to Dana.
No, hang on. What are you doing? You're playing games with me, aren't you?
Oh, sorry.
This is not one of our one-on-one phone calls that we have, brother. Fair dinkum. Oh, all right, in the corner, please. Deb, that is absolutely fantastic. In 2017-18, I did something similar, like I say, similar, and I failed. And I saw the depth of and listen to the depth of what you have actually done, you, your husband and your son accomplished. And I can see some elements that I had failed upon. I've sent you a personal message on Telegram. I would like to have a thorough knowledge. I'll have to dig out all my old files. Like I said, that was from 2017, 2018, both years. Very, very interested to go back and revisit that and maybe claim something back, hey? So thank you very much for that wonderful experience that you've just shared.
You're welcome. Cameron, I'm not sure that you would be able to. At this point, the ATO's own rules say that they cannot make us go back in and audit. And most people don't know this. And this is kind of what started me on the journey last year. After that person helped us erroneously, I then was talking to my accountant, because I have an accountant for my company, and he pointed out that the ATO are not allowed by their own rules. They can't make you go back more than 2 years in an audit, right? But that also means that we can't go back and amend anything further than 2 years. So you've only got the day after you receive your notice of assessment, it's 2 years from that date. And anything further than that, so for me to go back to 2017 or 2016 and get my money back that I paid a huge amount of tax in, I can't do that. It's too much, unless I can prove that the ATO made a mistake. Now, because I agreed to put in a tax return the previous years and tick the box, yes, I'll put in another tax return next year. That's me contracting with them and promising that I will pay tax the following year. So the fact that they took my tax and kept it is that's I can't say that they have done anything wrong or that they have done anything illegal in that regard. So I don't have justification to go back and actually put in an amendment for those years. But we are putting in amendments for a lot of other people.
I'd be quite happy. Yeah, that was actually just a reference point that I had failed to achieve the desired outcome back in those. But I haven't paid for the last 2 years, and I do want to be able to get something back for it. It's actually more of a personal accomplish, I should say, to be able to do it, knowing that we were in the same boat. So I would like to actually go back and do the last 2 years. So yeah, that's fine. But anyway, with that, I'm just absolutely astonished to see the differences that I had tried and failed on. And that's awesome. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. The thing that pleases me is that I appreciate when Darren is sharing with the group in like the General Assembly and the interim and so on. He often talks about the peaceful transparency, like we are peacefully and transparently non-compliant. And I like that because I don't want to have to lie to get out of paying tax. That's not who we are. But the fact is we don't have to lie because the facts and the law is on our side. And so all we have to do is acknowledge to the ATO that we know what our rights are and we're holding their feet to the fire. And they so far have not pushed back on anyone that I've heard about. And that pleases me because it tells me that whether anybody else doubts what TASA is doing or the premise that TASA works on and is structuring their governmental development on, it's actually true. Like this, to me, the tax thing proves that it's true, that we are being lied to, and we don't have to take that anymore. We are perfectly within our rights to say, no, enough, and give me my money back.
100% spot on. Yeah, that's great.
What happened to Dana? She had a hand up. She's gone. Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, I'll jump in again if I can. I guess a question for you. So you were filling out the paper forms that you can just download off the internet, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so obviously, and again, you've done this as someone who's been like an employee with PAYG, so an employer has taken tax
Mhm.
out of your salary on her, yeah, literally on your behalf, not in your behalf. So you've been able to then go back and they've, I guess my question is, they've then deposited that money back into your account because you've already paid
Yes,
it.
yes.
Okay. I'm just,
Which is,
yeah,
again, that's not us saying, oh no, we didn't earn that kind of money, so we don't have to pay that tax,
yeah,
right? And we actually owe we owe the tax department, but we're saying no, we don't because we didn't earn as much money as you think we did. This is actually saying not only did we earn the money, but you have the tax, you've already got it.
yeah,
Ordinarily, without this kind of process, they would only get back, to maybe $5,000, right? And
yeah,
then the tax department would keep the rest. But no, they're
yeah,
paying every cent back for every person.
yeah. And I would say if that, because my experience or my observation of the last few years is that fewer and fewer people have been getting tax returns.
Mm.
Like once upon a time, you like it was like, oh yeah, tax time. I'm going to get a couple of grand back, and I'm going to go and
Yeah.
be able to spend.
Mm.
Um, I most of my social network, they've had next to nothing, or they owe. And I've been running my own business for the last few years, but I've paid the tax
Mhm.
through through a PAYG type thing. And I've still, at the end of the year, I've still had to pay more, according to my accountant. So,
Okay, Lauren, do you have are you paying that, like your business, is that you as a sole trader, individual
no, it's
person, or do you have a company?
yeah, corporation, proprietary limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I should be able to go back and there's no reason why in my mind that I wouldn't be able to go back and claim this.
Yeah. So what I'm doing
Mm.
with my company is that my company is Hopewell Institute. Deborah Croft is an employee
Yeah,
and so after we calculate all of the legitimate expenses for the company, Hopewell Institute pays Deborah Croft absolutely every cent in profit.
yeah,
Therefore, it's a line ball. The company's not making any money at all, so there's no tax to pay.
yeah,
And Deborah Croft, the individual living woman, doesn't pay tax.
yeah. I used to do
Um,
it that way myself. And then I switched to Freedom Accountants that were far from Freedom Accountants. Oh my God.
mhm.
So my company has had to pay some tax. And I'm in the process, like my company ceased trading last financial year. So, and not like no one needs to, probably doesn't care about this, right? But so my, this financial year, I'm doing it as a sole trader, like through an ABN, but I have zero intention of doing anything tax wise this year. So, but I still need to close off 2025. And I've been
Mhm.
holding off, and I've had I'm not working with the N, but I have seen the forms and I've been sitting on them. And now I know why I'm sitting on them, because now I'm going to do
Okay.
this. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And
And that makes more sense because like I probably paid 30 grand in tax. So
well, you'd want every cent of that back. Whereas if you go
exactly.
with his process, you won't get anything back.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
will accept that it's your last year. It's in their best interest to just go, yep, whatever you want,
Yeah.
because they keep every cent you've paid.
Yeah. So you're potentially still employed. Like, can you do your process and say also 2025 is my last tax year?
We're doing that for yes, we're all doing that.
Okay. Yeah.
We're doing that every year now. So we did that in 2024. That was the first year we said this is my final tax return. But because Simon and James had to do their
because they're employed.
personal tax returns in order to get the money back. Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas for me, that's different. Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, in my mind, and I'll yield after this. There's no sense in me lodging anything this financial year, but I would I've closed out the company, and I needed to close the company. I had to close the tax bill. So I'll do that. But like for me personally, I just got to close out 2025, and then I don't plan to let them know anything beyond here. And this is my whole thing for us in TASA. If we stop funding these people, right,
Absolutely.
it's another great strategy. So anyway,
Yeah.
thanks heaps, Deb. I'm so
All the best with that. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'll provide Warren with all the paperwork, and you're welcome to use it at will.
Yeah, you're a legend. Thank you so much.
Alan, did you a question for Deb, I'm assuming?
Yeah, mate, if that's all right. Thanks very much, Deborah. Absolutely excellent. And thanks for your work there. Just a couple of questions. One is, so effectively, if you're saying if you don't save 18 odd grand in a year, in other words, you've got more expenses than you're making, then you would still pay that tax, you know what I mean? Like effectively.
Yeah. I mean, if you
can't show evidence that you've got less than $18,000 saving, then effectively.
Technically, though, what you're saying is the other work-related expenses is just how you live. Now, you might be a spendthrift, or you might be really frugal. The government has no idea how much money you're spending on your lifestyle. You might be living like the rich and famous, or you might save a lot of money. We don't stipulate that in the affidavit. All we say is that the other work-related expenses is so that I can continue existing, surviving, and working. So it's none of their business really how much you spend. It's just that it's pointing out I'm not a corporation and I'm not making profit. Therefore, I don't pay tax.
Yeah.
And when you read the affidavit, you'll understand how it lays it all out. And if there is a clause in there that you don't want, just take that out or reword it. When you are looking at the template, I did it on a Word document. So I've just, where you need to write your living man name, it says living man name. Where you have to replace your straw man name, it says straw man name. You just have to make sure you read right the way through and make sure that your he or she, woman or man is changed. And yeah, otherwise it's pretty simple.
No worries. And I'm assuming you obviously would have also signed V.C. given us paper when you lodged it, autograph.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
And thumbprint.
No, well, good. Yeah. Yep. Excellent. No worries. Thanks a lot for that. Oh, you.
You're up, Deb.
Well, thank you. Hi, Deb. How you going?
Good. Thanks, Deb.
That's good. I've already been down this road with my employer. They're not interested. They don't recognise TASA and all the rest of it. Done all that, and I've instructed them to. I said, apart from all of this, immediately stop taking tax out because of the money that goes to war efforts. They wouldn't even touch that. They wouldn't even reply. But my question is, I could probably do. Well, I will try to do this too, but. What about with investments? I've got 2 investment properties, so they would be in the name of the person. How do you think we'd get around that? Because no, I'm not paying that off, someone else is. And I'm also still with an accountant who's been working it out. So how do you reckon that would go?
Ultimately, the only money that any of us can get back from the ATO is what we've paid in tax. Yeah. So if we haven't paid any tax, we're not going to get any back. If we've paid some in tax, but our claims would be in excess of that because we have an investment property that's negatively geared and so on,
Yeah.
we can still only get the amount of money, right?
Sorry,
So
you broke up.
when we sold, yeah, I all of a sudden I can hear myself occasionally. I don't know why.
Yep.
We sold in 2023, October 2023, we sold our investment property. And we didn't bother in 2024 because that person was helping us and he said, no, like, don't even include that. So we actually didn't even put that into the tax return because he declared that we'd only earned 3,666, which is apparently his silly number that he likes to put in. And so we actually didn't even go down that road. But other people recently have lodged theirs and they sold an investment property and they were supposed to pay $100,000 in capital gains tax. And so they have declared what they earned from their sale of the property. But again, they're just saying, but we are individual men and women, living men and women. We are not corporations. We don't pay tax. So they're expecting not to have to pay that and to still get back all the tax that they have paid. But we haven't had that result yet. We don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. I did try to do something similar to this the year before last, and I got back a 0. I must have filled it in wrong, but anyway, and then they reminded me that I hadn't declared the investment property income from that. So we fixed all that up. I went and sorted all that out. But I think I'd be very interested in doing it this way because I've got my son and his wife all doing all bloody, up with their backs against the wall paying these Mongols. So yeah, thank you so much, Deb.
I can't find the raised hand. Warren, can I ask a question?
Sorry, were you asking me?
I can't find my raised hand, but yes, if I could ask a question.
Sure.
Just I'm curious that I'm very familiar, not with your exact method, but I haven't paid tax for a long time now. But with investment properties, if one was to sell, like having reconveyed a long time ago, well, it feels like a long time ago, I'm just wondering if you happen to sell a property and there is a profit or a capital gains and you haven't actually put in a tax return, there's a whole lot of questions I have around property, which is probably a different conversation. But it was just like, oh, how would you deal with that if you haven't actually put in tax returns for a number of years and yet the property is sold? Just curious if anyone has any thoughts. Thank you. I yield.
In our case, we actually had lived in the property for 2.5 years before we started renting it out. That was in WA. And we'd had it for 12 years. And so our situation with capital gains was entirely different anyway. So we were never going to have to pay capital gains tax. We probably should have that year that he decided not to include it, declared the income that we were getting from the rental property itself because that was positively geared. But yeah, in that year, like I said, we deferred to him and made some mistakes. But even if we were still declaring that, we would have likely we would have got all the money back that we had paid in tax anyway, because the affidavit justifies that we don't have to pay tax on that money because that's our own personal income. It wasn't through a company. We didn't have it owned in a company or anything like that. So for us, that wouldn't have changed anything.
But if you're actually not paying tax and you're not putting in tax returns and you suddenly sell a property, then why would you even put in a tax return? I guess you wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't. And I didn't. But because it's a long story, but all those years ago, because I work in 12 countries, so I was overseas at the time when the sale was going through, and in the end there was a glitch in the paperwork and I was unavailable to sign the paperwork, so it was just bought in Simon's name. The mortgage was in both names, but the title was in Simon's name. So in the end, it was only him declaring the income from that anyway. So in our situation, I could still not put in a tax return. He could put in a tax return, declare that money, and it wouldn't have made any difference. He still would have got every cent back that he actually had paid already. And that's the thing about tax. Everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
But ultimately, anything that we earn as a person, as a personal, individual living man or woman, not a corporation, is our own money, and we don't have to pay tax on that, regardless of whether it's income from a boss, income from a sole trader type scenario, or an income from an investment property that's just in our personal name. That's our money.
And that actually sits well with me too, because Anna always talks about not putting properties and, creating trusts, which everyone's trying to do. But if you have it in your own name, then that's very valid. It just makes more sense. Yeah.
And it sits a lot better with me, because it's being honestly transparent is who we are. So I don't like having to sort of fudge the numbers just to get out of paying tax. I'd rather get out of paying tax because we don't have to pay tax. And it says it in their charter that it's voluntary. And most of us don't realise that.
Right. Rod's got his hand up.
Hi, thanks, Deb. It was great
Hey, Rod.
information you were putting out there. I've done affidavits of truth and notice of liabilities against the tax office, and I'm not paying any tax any way, form or anything, because they have not failed. They've failed to respond in an affidavit and rebuttal of anything. But this is only the last 2 years. So, I've also called out the Australian Tax Office being owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, the Commonwealth Bank,
Merrill Lynch.
The 6 of them, right? There's 6 different companies, and they're all registered here in Victoria and Bentley.
That's right. James Chalmers.
Yeah.
Chalmers, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not paying any tax. I'm not paying any GST. And I've basically every government department I've read shreds in. The State Revenue Office leave me alone now. Basically every government department doesn't want to even deal with me.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah. I was excited to hear your news because that can help other people. But I just want to move into the next realm of taking all these criminals out, because this is not Australia. So, and all these government departments are all corporations. But I understand you've done a great job for people to so we've got to stop saying person. We've got to say people, helping people achieve their goals. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I yield. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
So, anybody else got any questions for Deb? It's an early night, Deb.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you. It was nice to see you all. And I will leave you to it.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll, as I said, that we'll just, once you get that information through to us, we'll put it up in the litigation Telegram channel. We can just post up certain things up there, and where
Okay.
you can grab it from.
Okay. Are you okay if I just email it to you, Warren?
That's fine, thanks. That's the easiest way. Yeah.
No worries. All right. Well, good night, everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Deb.
Deb.
So
Will
good.
do. Thank
Bye.
you.
Warren, if people want to access the recording, can they like what's the best way? Like obviously we want to keep it private, like if they want the link.
Yeah. Well, I'll just have a link there, and we can. I
They
just put,
DM you on Telegram or
I normally put it in the litigation Telegram page, and you can find it there if you want it. But again,
yeah, if we're going to keep this one a bit private, I don't know whether
maybe if just send us a message on Telegram with your email, and then I can email it to you. It's probably the best bet.
perfect. I'll let her know. Yeah, it's just Brandy, my mate, from on Yeppoon here. So
yeah, no worries.
Okay.
much appreciated. Thank you.
Good night, all.
Awesome stuff, Deb. Yeah, thanks heaps.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Good night.